This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. This is episode number 350, and my guest today is Jim Zaspel, a Philadelphia-based real estate investor and a friend of mine. As you know, the market is more competitive than ever right now, and finding deals is challenging. But those that are committed to their own success, and you should be, always find a way. Now, today we talk about finding deals on the MLS. Now, I'll admit, I have historically not really focused on buying deals on the MLS, but today Jim has convinced me that I've probably left a lot of opportunity on the table. We're going to talk about Jim's process to find deals and make offers, which you can ethically steal from listening to today's show. He's created an automated process for his team to make 30 or more offers a week, targeting MLS deals, very targeted deals, which is netting him an extra deal each and every week. Now, if you're looking to grow your real estate business, and I know you are, you don't want to miss today's show. Please help me welcome Jim to the show. Jim, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here. I just wish I had a fancy, cable suspended microphone like you've got there. I'd be as cool as you, man.
Yeah, well, one can dream, Jim. One can dream.
That's right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these earbuds are working miracles.
You know, it's funny, when I started my podcast, I was following certain podcasters, and there are the diehard guys that have all these mixers and stuff. I'm like, what is that? I don't. So literally, I do this with a Logitech webcam, 350 shows, a Logitech webcam, and a nice microphone. But other than that, not too high tech, but. Awesome. Well, hey, before we get started, why don't you tell folks a little bit about your background, how you got started in real estate investing, maybe what you did before you were in real estate, and then a little bit more about what you're working on right now.
Yeah. So one thing I'll just say I like about my story is you'll hear I'm kind of an idiot. I'm nobody special, and so I was homeschooled all 12 years, college dropout, and before real estate, I started mowing lawns for neighbors when I was 12 years old, right? And that grew into a legit business. And when I was 20 years old in 2007, I grossed almost $500,000 in the landscaping business, and netted like 75, 80 grand. And I thought I was the shizzle, man, because I thought, man, what other 20-year-old? I didn't know any other 20-year-olds making 75 grand.
Right.
And of course, I was working 80 plus hours a week. So when somebody explained to me I actually had like 2 full-time jobs at 35 grand a year, I kind of wasn't as excited. So then 2008 rolled around, and my company gross income fell by 50%. My net income fell by 90%, and I would have made more money on welfare. And so thankfully, I guess you could say I was still living at my parents' house at the time. And because I was just crazy. I had a negative net worth, and finally read a book my dad had bought me 3 years prior on how to make money in real estate. It was a Ron LeGrand book, right?
Okay.
And I spent 5 of my last $7,000. Again, count the credit card debt. I had a negative net worth. If I had $7 grand liquid, spent $5 grand going to a seminar, right? And when I went to the seminar, I didn't know how to spell real estate. I thought it was one word. I kid you not. Like I said, nobody's special here, And but I was like, you know what? If other people can do it, I can do it. And I guess it's that persistency and tenacity and confidence that. So I did my first deal, and it was a wholesale deal in March of 2009, and since then done close to 300 deals, mostly rehabs now. And so now my wife and I, we still wholesale a house every 10 days or so, but we do about 5 rehabs. We sell about 5 rehabs, sometimes more, every single month. So a little more than one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, talk a little bit about. So this is one thing that I believe is interesting. I think, and I hope everybody gets this at some point. I want everybody to have. I teach a lot on financial freedom through real estate investing. We've done 350 episodes, so I do that because I'm passionate about sharing my message and passionate about spending time with friends like you to share your message about how people can use real estate to achieve their success. But there's one thing that is always interesting to me. When you get to the point to where you're making, far more money than what you need to survive, right? You probably might be, some people make a ton of money and they still blow it all. So that probably doesn't qualify for
Broke
them.
at a higher level, right?
Yeah. But, but the interesting thing for me is you get to a point to where you're kind of playing what I say with the house's money, right? Like you're taking bets on yourself and trying to grow things. And the interesting thing is I feel like for once you've gotten to a point where you made money, and you probably saw this in your landscaping business, is you knew it was possible to make money, right? So you could lose everything tomorrow and within a year you'd be back, right? You might be doing something a little bit different, but that's just when you kind of proven yourself as an entrepreneur. I think that's one of the great things about it is you get this confidence to say, well, it can be done. I just have to figure out how to do it, right?
Right. It's totally true. In fact, after a couple of years in the business, I had almost 50 rentals, almost 50 units, and that I'd acquired almost with all no money down strategies. Lease options, seller financing, subject to some private money deals. But I was 22 years old, stupid as could be, cocky beyond belief. And before I knew it, 8 tenants were paying me out of almost 50. That's not a very good ratio, right?
No.
So I lost all those houses and broke all sorts of promises and found myself in 200 grand in debt. And I buried my head in the sand for a couple of years, and then dug myself out of that, made everything right, and it's awesome now to not have to worry about that. So you mentioned some of our rentals before the show, and managing and staying on top of is not one of my strengths, and so that's why we do some of that now. But I've got other people to do it. It's not up to me.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about essentially buying off the MLS, sourcing deals off the MLS. And, I have friends that buy off the MLS and they teach buying off the MLS like you do, but it's not something that I've ever done. So I'm excited to learn more about this because I know the people that I know that do it well, they always have systems in place. They have a process for how they can automate things. And so I'm excited to talk about it. So let's kind of get started. I mean, first off, for those that think it's not possible, tell me why it is.
Sure. So I got a friend. His name is Juan, Won. He's a cool dude. He's in my area here near Philadelphia. And I told him one time, I said, where were you doing this a couple of years ago, where we were doing deals and Montgomery County. And I said, oh, Jim, there's no way. There's no effing deals there. You're going to starve if you try doing deals there. There's just no deals. Everybody's buying them. It was like Yogi Berra, the ballparks are crowded. That's why nobody goes anymore, right? So I said, okay. And I just smiled. And that was like 100 deals ago in Montgomery County. And so first off, and this might sound silly, but I started off with the mindset that there are deals there, okay? And sometimes when you start off with the conviction and belief that something is possible, like you said, you have a way of figuring out how to do it, right? And then next is I realized that when we started doing deals out of the MLS, my goal was not to become an employee for myself again, right? My goal is not to be as busy as can be. And so one question I've always asked myself, and this is one thing I train my students to do, and I'm sure you do the same things. Every time I do anything, I always ask myself, how can I have someone else do this, right? And I can't have somebody else be on a podcast for me, but I can't have somebody else go search the MLS. I can't have somebody else go look at the houses for me. I can have somebody else estimate the repairs. I can have somebody else write the contract. I can have somebody else crunch the numbers, submit. I can have somebody else do everything. Right. So for us right now, it takes almost 30 offers to get a deal out of the MLS. Right. So imagine if I were doing all that myself.
Right.
So I'm glad I'm not. So first off, it's a really time management intense. I'm intentional in how I spend my time. Right. And so a lot of times people say it doesn't work because they went and made 8 offers or 10 offers and didn't get a deal. That happens to us every week. So do you want me to get technical here in terms of some different things that we do?
Dive in.
Okay.
Dive in. Yeah.
So first off, I'm going to start basic and then go a little bit deeper. And I'm not a licensed agent. My wife is, and I've got a few that work for me as employees that are. But my MLS acquisitions, Nicole, she's awesome. She sets up. We give her the zip codes we want to work in, right?
Okay.
And then we have a list of 47 different keywords that we use to search the MLS. So if the property pops up for sale in that area that has REO, bank owned, handyman special, investor special, any of these other kind of keywords, then what we do is we go ahead and that pops up on our radar, right? So that's the first level of pre-screening. It gets on our radar, right? And then
next, it gets on your radar. How do you? It
gets on our radar because we set up a drip feed on the MLS. So it's like an automatic search.
Yeah.
So if a property comes up for sale and it's in our certain zip codes and the listing description has one of these keywords in it, It
Okay. Which
generates
is
one.
is an indication that there's probably equity there. Like,
Yeah,
give a couple of
equity and
examples. Like,
distress.
yeah.
Yeah, yep. By the way, one of our favorites, and you can it's different in every MLS, but we set it up where the owner's name contains the word estate, like estate
Uh,
of John Doe, right?
yeah.
So a lot of times they're distressed, but the challenge with bank-owned properties a lot of times is all the investors want to buy it here, and the banks start the price way up here, right?
Yep.
Whereas with an estate deal, they don't have all the limitations that that an REO agent does, and so
Right.
they can drop a price by 100 grand if they're convinced of the value and taking the offer. So
Yep.
we love estate deals. So
Yep.
again, we set up all these keyword searches, and then so once a day, any new property that fits that gets hit gets sent in an email to Nicole as well as our overseas VA. That VA cross references the VA puts on a spreadsheet in Google Drive the property address, the listing price, as well as the Zestimate, Zillow estimated value, which
Okay.
Mike, you and I know is not worth diddly, right? But it's
Some
some
indicator.
indication. It's some
Yeah.
indication as to the value, right?
Right.
So if the
Yep.
Zestimate is 250 grand and they're asking 260, that's probably not a good deal, right?
Right.
So that's just the first level of pre-screen. And then what he does is we have him research. We have it all procedurized out for him to research and put in the next column the mortgage balance and the year it was taken out. So at a glance, just looking at line after line, instead of clicking through a million clicks, we can do some sorting and identify very easily which ones are distressed, which ones are worth looking after. So
Okay.
that's kind of how we go through the MLS. You have lots and lots of leads, and that's how deals get on our radar to start with.
Yeah. That's great.
And
That's
then,
great.
yeah, and then what we do is we take those properties, or Nicole takes those properties, and she'll pull comps on each of them. And if they fit certain criteria in terms of a spread between the ARV, the after repaired value, and the asking price, she'll dispatch a field agent to go look at the properties.
Okay.
And
So, for
and
example,
this,
you're probably making an estimate on repairs, like saying, it's this much below asking price, and we're going to assume that it needs a minimum of $10 a square foot or 12, probably some
yeah.
estimate to, because every house needs work, right? I mean, as a
Mhm.
rehabber, you know that, right?
Are you looking to change your life through real estate investing? If you're interested in either getting started or taking your business to the next level, please check out FlipNerd's private program at theinvestormachine.com. This is the most robust real estate investor coaching, networking, and mastermind on the planet, and designed for your success. If you're ready to roll up your sleeves, ready to take personal responsibility for your own success, and ready to dive into a world-class instructional coaching program that provides you step-by-step instruction to help you achieve financial freedom, then you should apply today. Spaces are limited, and candidates are only considered after an application and interview process. Our 12-month investor program is unparalleled. Think you might be a fit? Learn more today at theinvestormachine.com.
Probably some estimate to, because every house needs work, right? I mean, as a rehabber, you know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so Nicole oftentimes will do a mock-up. We have a rehab calculator we use. She'll do like a mock-up crunch the numbers
Yep.
to
Yep.
see if it's worth pursuing. And
Okay.
so we have a script for her to call the listing agent if there's not much of a spread, but it's a piece of crap. She calls the listing agent. We have a script for her. And then a big thing that was hard for me to get over, Mike, was this idea of having somebody else go look at the house, buying houses without actually seeing them myself,
Yep.
right? And
I've
a
been
lot of
there.
folks look at, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And but it's as a business owner, if you want to go from self-employed to a business owner, where you got a seven-figure net income business, you got to let go of some stuff, right?
Yep.
And so what I did was I actually created a checklist because I got tired of missing things. Like the field agent would take a video and I wouldn't notice the HVAC system, the wiring, or whatever the system the thing might be.
Right.
So I created a checklist for the field agent to follow. And now, so the way the process works, Nicole identifies these deals that are worth pursuing. And the next step, she dispatches a field agent who is a licensed agent. You can go look at these MLS deals. We pay them an hourly plus a bonus if we get an offer accepted. So this is typically somebody who's newer in the business, doesn't have a lot of experience. They just want to get some gas money and go look at ugly houses. That's how they
Yeah.
get their thrills.
So you
right?
have, and since you're buying a certain zip codes, or you're primarily buying in one area, you have a couple of kind of go-to agents, I assume.
Well, we have about 5 different field agents to go look at the houses for us.
Okay.
Then when we buy them through my wife's license.
I see.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
And so the reason there has to be an agent to go look at it is because it's listed on the MLS. We just want to avoid any complications. Then we buy it through my wife's license.
Okay.
Right.
And then they get paid.
Yeah, they get paid like it's $500, $1,000, something like that. Right.
Yeah.
Minimal.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, the field agent takes the video. Nicole sits in the office, watches the video, goes through the checklist, estimates the repairs from an 8-minute video. I've trained her on how to do that. And so now that's how we're able to make 20, 30 offers a week without Nicole or me going to look at any houses personally, and able to really leverage ourselves in terms of making a lot of offers.
Right. And do you still have one of the things about the MLS, like when you're buying directly from a seller? Well, in any instance, you always have like a option to terminate or there's some escape hatch there if you need it. So you're using the best information you have to buy, but then if your offer gets accepted, do you do a little more thorough investigation of it, or what do you do there?
Yeah, I do. I learned that lesson the hard way. I walked from a $7,500 deposit not that long ago, so we adjusted some internal procedures. So now what we do is once the offer is accepted, that's when I personally watch the video to make sure it's good. And if it's questionable at all, meaning there's lots of water damage or something like that, then we have one of our trusted contractors go look at it and give us a quote.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's all within the 3-day period we have to put up a deposit.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, perfect.
So offer gets accepted, Jim watches the video. If it's questionable, contractor goes and looks at it, gives me a quote. Somebody we've used on dozens of houses, right?
Yeah.
And then we go from there. That way protects us a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of new. So I coach a lot of new investors or newer investors, and there's always this fear for new people of like they're afraid to make an offer because it's almost like, what am I going to do if I get it? It's like,
right. It's like, oh crap.
You want to be able to buy with confidence, right? So it's like, so you just kind of teach people a way to like buy with full confidence, but you have some period there where you have an option period or you have the right to kind of terminate, and then so what that means is stop worrying about it 100% of the time. Worry about it 5% of the time when you actually get something, right? Yeah,
totally true. And so for us, in order to be competitive in the MLS, it's got to be no contingencies and big deposit, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But for us, the way we accomplish that is that 3 days we have to put up a deposit.
Right. Yep.
So that 3 days is all the time we need to get somebody out there, get the quote, and if there's anything weird about the property.
Yeah.
I can tell you, in the last 100 houses we bought out of the MLS, I've walked from 2 deposits. That's it. So so the $10,000 from the 2 deals. And so somebody might say, well, gosh, that's $10,000. Well, the way I look at it is it's a couple $1 million of profit I was able to realize because of having that process in place. I'll gladly pay $10,000 to make $2 million.
Yeah, it's a cost of doing business at some point.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about kind of competition, and this is going to be different from market to market. But so my impression of why I haven't really pursued the MLS is that there are some people in my market that have just a machine. Like I think they, essentially are just making blind offers on everything that hits the MLS. And I see it. Right. I list properties for full retail value, that are rehabbed and everything. We start getting hammered with all these offers for 70% of what we had it listed for. And, so there's some people that have figured out just kind of auto offering stuff that makes it kind of a competitive space. Just talk about, I guess, maybe how competitive your market is and what you do differently than the competition to beat them out.
Yeah, so my market is very competitive. It is by the way, I apologize for the lighting. I didn't realize we started how dark my face is in the screen.
No, you're fine.
It works out all right. All right,
very
cool.
handsome. Very handsome today.
I wasn't looking for that, man. Not from you anyway. So, I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, no, our market's very competitive. So, if you go pull comps on a property in our market, your active pending and sold transactions in the MLS, about 5, maybe 10% of those comps are going to be, maybe 15% are going to be active listings. So you pull 30 comps, you'll have about 5 active, and the rest are pending and settled. So it's very competitive. Not a lot of inventory. Right. So yes, it is extremely competitive in Philly and around Philly, where we do most of our business. So how do we get some people submitting these automatically generated offers. And I'm not saying I've never done that. We do it sometimes. So it's a great way to get deals. But a lot of those deals fall through. And so we have a system. You said a machine. we do have a machine in place. It's twofold. One is a spreadsheet for tracking the offers we make and following up until they close. And two, it's a full-time person who's got specific procedures to follow. Scripted emails, scripted text, scripted everything, so that we're able to make offers quickly.
Right.
So yeah, the machine is very important. I will tell you that we get more than half of our deals from the MLS after they've been on the market for at least 60 days.
Okay.
And a lot of times they've actually fallen out of contract. There's one deal we did that was a Hubzu property, right? So Hubzu.com is an auction site.
Yeah.
We don't get tons of deals there, but we get a few a year, maybe 5, 6 a year tops. So it's worth doing.
Yeah.
And so we made an offer right away, got rejected. Then it went pending, went back to active. We resubmitted the offer, got rejected, went pending, right? Then went active, submitted the offer, resubmitted the offer 3 weeks later a couple of times, and then it got accepted. So it went pending to somebody else twice before we got it.
Right.
And that happens a lot. What I had described earlier about setting up your MLS automatic searches, a lot of guys do that, right? But not very many people, or not nearly as many people, follow a property until it closes, which is, in my opinion, and if you're going to make a business out of buying deals out of the MLS and you're not making you don't have a process in place for following up on offers for months, many months if necessary, you're going to cut yourself off at the knees or even somewhere else.
Yeah, because those are it's like twisting a knife in somebody's side when a deal falls through, right? So it's like you have a better opportunity. There's more motivation that kind of presents itself when those happen, right? So talk a little about, can you share your process a little bit? Are you using somebody like a virtual assistant or somebody else to physically call people and check in? Or do you have some automation of like when something happens, we can trigger an email to the agent, or kind of what are you doing there?
Sure. So we're still a little bit archaic. It works. I'm not embarrassed to say that. Like I said, we'll make plenty of money out of the MLS. So we don't use right now Podio for our MLS deals like we do our off-market stuff.
Okay.
The automated follow-up emails. Our process is, I'm going to say it's a little embarrassing, but pretty archaic, but it works. It's a Google Doc. And so I explained earlier how this one virtual assistant takes the first crack, identifies the hot leads, right? And then if it's of interest, I have an assistant who puts on another one tab of that Google Doc spreadsheet, right? And those are ones that she makes an offer on. That tab needs to get cleared out every day.
Okay.
And let's say we make an offer, or at least every couple of days. Let's say we make an offer on our property, but we get rejected. That goes to a different tab, and then she submits she enters in the date the offer submitted, and the spreadsheet's programmed so it automatically shows up, I think, in red. That property, that line shows up in red if that date is 3 weeks ago or more.
Okay.
And so then every single day she looks on that one tab at the ones that are in red. She'll go pull up that, maybe have the link to that address in the spreadsheet. She'll pull it up and see if it's pending yet, right? Or if it's a pending property, she indicates on another tab of the same spreadsheet what the closing date's going to be.
All right.
So the point is, all she's got to do is if she enters the data correctly, is every single day follow up on the properties that show up in red, look it up, and if it's still active, resubmit the offer. And if it's pending, move it to a different one, and then set a reminder to follow up the day after closing. And if it still shows up as pending the day after scheduled closing, she's on the phone and say, "Hey, listen, your other offer fell through. We're still here."
Right.
And so I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how we
absolutely
stay on top of these deals.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I was talking to somebody else about this recently. We're talking about automation as a business owner, automation. So sometimes we get, we're talking about systems or processes. Well, systems and processes and automation isn't necessarily,
no human
doesn't
involvement.
necessarily mean a scary amount of technology. It could just be you have a system in place for how a virtual assistant does something. It's just it could be a checklist, right? But yeah, I think truthfully, I think where a lot of real estate investors went from like no technology like 5 years ago, right? 6 years ago,
right,
to like caveman with laser gun now. That a lot of people have technology, they don't know what the hell to do with it. And then so I think the balance is somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think it's funny that we talk about low technology means actually picking up the phone and calling somebody, but it's like this is a relationship business, right? So I think a lot of people forget that, hey, you have to have a process to get things done, but it doesn't mean you need to have
automation, like robotic automation that just happens without you necessarily. It might happen without you, but it can still happen with maybe somebody else on your team.
Some human involvement, yeah. And so our entire MLS buying process, it's all documented, scripted, like a Google Drive folder. It contains spreadsheets and Word documents. That's it. That's our process.
Yeah.
For different scripts. And again, it's one of the mindsets I was taught, and I totally agree with, is you cannot expect what you do not inspect. And so we used to, my wife and I, we run the business together. We used to get frustrated when somebody would drop the ball in doing the business, and a big mindset shift for me was I've got absolutely no right to be frustrated with a team member or employee if what they were supposed to do wasn't documented in a procedure, checklist, or something like that, right?
Right.
Even if it's common sense, right? And taking that level of responsibility, 100% ownership of your business, and not passing the buck to somebody else who you think did the job well enough. What that does is it forces you as the business owner to really up your game and think through in a lot more detail. Think through in a lot more details to what somebody's job is, how to empower them to do it. And what that does in turn for them is enables them to do a lot more increased volume because they don't have to rethink anything. Just copy and paste, put in a first name, done. Right.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of the stuff can be done with automation within Podio, but we're working there. But I've got bigger fires to put out right now.
Yeah. And the other thing it does as a business owner is, in the event that you have turnover, which we all do, like somebody comes and goes, you have these processes and procedures for how you do something. So now instead of having to reteach a new person everything, you can say, review these documents or watch these videos or whatever you did to kind of document that process, and just let me know what questions you have, right? Because at that point you have almost like operating manuals for how you do certain things in your business.
Not almost, we do. Yeah, we absolutely do. And another thing we do is we like to have two people know how to do everything in the business. Yeah. So for buying deals on the MLS, there's two people know how to do it. For putting a listing up, even though my wife's the agent, there's two other people in the office who can do that. Who are good at it, right? For calling sellers, for taking inbound calls, all that kinds of two people know how to do it. It makes people perform better, and it's just a security on our part. It's irresponsible to not do that. In my opinion.
So talk a little bit about, that's true. Cause most of us as real estate investors, if you're not a one-man band or a one-woman band, which I think we all hope that you get beyond that. So you don't have a job, you have a business. But even for me as a small business, if there's certain things that happen in my office or whatever, like something happens in the bathroom, I was like, I got to contact the landlord. And there's certain things that happen that you're like the CEO, which sometimes you're the chief bottle washer too, right? So I think it's important that more than one person know how to do those things. Right. And I found myself for a long time, like people would come to me and I was like, well, let me just give you the contact information for the landlord. And if you ever have a problem, you contact them. Why does it have to come through me? But
we've got a few rules. One is everything's got to be written. I always ask myself, how can somebody else do this? And then every time we have a problem or a situation or a challenge or something like that, we're always asking ourselves. My wife's great at this. Is how can we avoid the situation in the future? Yeah. And the answer almost always is a checklist, a system, a process. Put something in writing, right? Yeah. Make it known that this can be prevented with something else. Another rule we have in the office is one of our core values is own it, which means seeing every task through to completion and taking complete ownership of it. And one of the things that means is everybody knows they better not come to me or anyone else, any of their other colleagues, with a challenge, a question, or a problem if they don't have an accompanied solution. Right? That's right. Yeah. Some of the new hires, and even if it's a solution that they don't have the authority to make that decision to implement it, they got to have an idea. Right? Yeah.
What do you think we should do? Yeah. What's the solution? Yeah. I do the same thing. I need to get better at it, but I kind of started, I don't even know where I heard that at like a year ago, but I started to talk to my team and say, look, we can't grow what we're doing here without getting me less involved. So don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution to a problem. Yeah. And I think it forces people to think through like what they would do. And a lot of times in the process of just thinking about it, they solve the problem and maybe didn't even need to tell you that was ever a problem, right?
Totally true, man. Totally true. I swear sometimes you just write down the problem, literally physically with a piece of paper and a pen. Sometimes the answers jump right off the page at you. The same thing will happen with team members. But yeah.
Yep. Well, hey, I want to talk about some of your rehab stuff and your construction process in just a minute. But before we go there, one last thing on making offers on the MLS. Do you feel like when you're making more and more offers, you start to, of course, you could build a bad name for yourself, right? Like if with agents that you never actually perform, or you always back out of deals,
Right.
or that's the guy that always locks it up at some unrealistic price and then comes back and tries to renegotiate it 100% of the time. Like people can build a bad name, but what have you done, and what can people do to build a good reputation so that more agents want to look at them when they see your deals come across?
Right. One, our offers are solid. The only weasel clause is that 3-day, to put up a deposit. With 3 days to put up a deposit. Two, I've trained my team members well on estimating the ARV and the repairs, et cetera, so that I feel confident in the offers that they put out. Because 20, 30 offers a week go out without my knowledge. I've never even heard of the address, right? So it really comes down to training them well, equipping them well, so that the numbers that you're basing your offer on are real numbers. They're not going to change when you go to the property. And, as evidenced by, we've backed out of 2 deals, in the last, 3-4 years, MLS offers. So it's really, our ratio is pretty dang good. And I do attribute that to, quality team members who have also been trained very well.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the rehab process a little bit. So I know that some people in my market, or some common belief in maybe other markets, is you don't get as good of a deal off the MLS because there's so many eyeballs on it. So therefore, when you rehab, you might have to kind of cut some corners or skimp because there's not enough meat on the bones there or whatever. But I know that yours are not that way. So talk a little bit about your rehab process and how you determine like how far you're going to take the rehab.
Sure. That's a big question. So, one, I would agree with you. Typically get better deals off the MLS, like that are not on the MLS, right? Through direct mail, stuff like that. But there's inherent challenges in doing that. But we use general contractors to do. So our contract, there's 3 models. 1, have employees who do the work. 2 is hire the subs directly. 3 is have general contractors who have their own subs. And I say have general contractors, it means they're their own business owner, and they have their own network of subs or employees, right?
Right.
That's the model we choose because it's the most easily scalable. And just the way I think, I try to think a little bit bigger, and I do tend to. And so it's easier to scale more quickly doing that model. That way we've got a real estate business, not a construction business, right?
Sure, yeah.
And so that's our model. And then in terms of how far we take the rehab, we're doing, a house right now. It's a $200,000 house. We left the laminate floors in the dining room. They're in good shape, but we left them there. We left the Corian countertops in the kitchen. They're nice. They're in good shape. It's a $199,000 house. Now, if it was really ugly, we'd put granite in, but we're confident we'll be able to leave it there, right? So the finish we put in that house obviously aren't the same as the $817,000 house we sold last week. And so what we do to determine that, it's really simple. I like to keep things simple. College dropout here is I like to look at the sold comps. I pull up comps, what sold recently in that neighborhood, those price point houses. Take the ones that sold, took more than 20 days or so to sell. I throw them aside. What sold in less than 20 days? What do those houses have in common? What types of finishes, types of design, how many bathrooms? What's the layout like, right? And that's how, if you do that, that's how you can literally go into any market and know with confidence what the house should look like in terms of finishes, in terms of design,
right?
Without having any experience in that market.
Yep.
That's how we do it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think, having rehabbed lots of houses myself, I feel like, especially newer investors, they're always trying to build a house to make it the nicest house on the street. But maybe like the nicest houses that they've seen. It's like, no, you just need to be one step ahead of the competition in that neighborhood, right?
Yes.
You don't need to over rehab. So, it's pretty common. You probably see this too. It's very common for us to get a contract to buy a house, and the house across the street or down the street a little bit is for sale. For us to wait through that period, we close on it, we rehab the whole thing, we put it on the market, and for ours to be sold before theirs
at a higher price.
All we do. Yes. At a higher price, or sometimes even a lower price if we engineer, but we just beat them at whatever the game. It's quality or price, or some mixture of the two, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't need to. It's like that old joke about
two people together, and I'm going to totally botch this joke, by the way. There's like a bear that starts chasing him, and one guy like bends down and starts lacing up his shoes and says, "What are you doing?" He's like, you can't outrun a bear. And he's like, "I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun you."
Totally
Right?
true, man. You didn't botch it, man. You got it. You nailed it.
No, it's something like that. So
Yeah.
rehabbing is the same way. Like, I don't need to be the nicest house that anybody's ever seen in their life. I just need to beat those couple competitors that are right around me, right?
Totally true. Totally true.
Yeah.
And it's so important. I mean, our houses, they do sell at the top of the market or above it. Like, I wonder how the heck they appraise, but they do.
Yeah.
So ours are the nicest in that neighborhood, not the nicest houses in the city,
Right.
but in that neighborhood for my exact competition.
Yep.
They are the nicest. Year to date, I think our average sales price is 4% higher than what we thought it would be when we bought the house, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's a crazy market right now. There's stuff selling for prices, and you're like, people bidding each other up. I'm like, how did that happen? I don't know, but I like it. But we all know you got to be careful because it's not going to last. Probably not going to last forever. So.
No, that's not.
Yeah.
Cool
Jim,
stuff.
Well, if folks wanted to learn more about you, I know that you have some education out there. You're teaching people how to model what you're doing and how to rehab better and things like that. Where should they go?
Sure. So I'm going to give out two resources. One is my blog. It's jimzaspel.com. I imagine my name is somewhere on this around this video.
Yeah,
so
we'll add a link. Below the video.
All right. And another one is that checklist that really prevents you from missing repair items on a house before you buy it. It's really important. It's a basic tool, but it's pretty thorough. You can get that for free at jimsrehabchecklist.com. jimsrehabchecklist.com. My gift to your audience, my way of saying thanks for showing up.
Awesome. We'll add links for both of those down below the video. And Jim, hey, thanks for joining us today. Good to see you, my friend.
My absolute pleasure, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the FlipNerd.com Investing Show. If you're not yet an elite member of FlipNerd, you're missing out. We have tons of great training, including a new detailed masterclass published each month and live training webinars with experts twice a month. Plus, you'll get access to all of our archives, where we already have a growing library of masterclasses and other training videos. Elite members also get membership in our incredible online mastermind group, where many of the top real estate investors from across the country, including many of the hundreds of guests I've had on the show in the past, are already members. Whether you're brand new, looking to get started, or a veteran, you simply must join today. I promise you won't be disappointed. To learn more or join today, please visit flipnerd.com/lab. That's flipnerd.com/lab. See you on the next show.